Starting recording. Okay, it should be live. I'm gonna post the announcements.
Hello, people.
Oh, can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Am I coming from the correct position?
Should be spatialized, but from the viewpoint of the camera now. Ah, you got a message. I can't read it because I'm on Dash sending out the announcements. There we go. Post this one.
Hello, chat. Okay. I miss you.
There we go. Hello. Hello.
Meow.
Okay, we need to adjust the position of that. There we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Clem, for the subscription. Hello.
Thank you for the subscription.
Wow. Hello, everyone. Good Butler. Hello. Can you hear us fine? We're taking the new secondary audio feature for a spin. And it's actually the first time I'm properly using it outside of the initial testing. So, let me know if there's any issues with it. You should hear both of us spatialized, from the viewpoint of the camera. So, if I do this, then you should be able to, it should. Actually, I'm still kind of in front of the camera. Yeah, hold on, let me do this. So if I do this and I go behind you, now I'm behind you. Hello. We're behind you. And on the right, I'm hello. Hello, does this work? Are you hearing us spatialized?
Hello?
Correctly spatialized.
Is anyone in there? Hello?
Hello? Hello? Okay, I think that's good enough. There we go. Hello.
Someone's gonna screenshot that.
Oh, it's gonna be recorded. I'll clip that. Yeah, it's spatialized correctly. Resonite SMR 1.
Now. Today we're going to be looking at how to use the dev tip.
Anyway, it's one way to market. Anyway, hello everyone and welcome to another Resonance. I'm Froox, I'm here with Sarah, and pretty much you can come here, you can ask anything about Resonite, whether it's a technical question, whether it's something to report from its direction, its future, past, more philosophical theme, pretty much whatever you want to ask relating to Resonite or the team, or just ask who think you can for the raid. You feel free, to ask. The only thing, make sure to put a question mark in your message. That way, it's gonna pop on our thing, so we know, we don't miss it. So it's it's been a week. I skipped one, and I'm what do I do when it starts? We're gonna be running for about usually 2 hours. So we should be able to get started. We have a bunch of questions from Discord, so we're gonna go through these first. But if you do the question mark thing, it's gonna pop on our thing here. I can actually even show you. See, we have a thing here, and we have a bunch of the questions from Discord. Which Cyro, good luck, ready. So we should be able to get started. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
Well, I mean,
what?
I think your dignity. No, you have that. I think.
Oh, what?
Your dignity?
Dignity? I don't know, I don't think they implemented it yet.
Ah, damn.
Anyways, let's get started. So, we're gonna go through the questions from Discord first. If you're watching, you should be asking questions now on Twitch, not on Discord anymore, because we won't bring any of the new ones. But the first one, actually I might switch the camera to manual too, so it's not floating around. First question is from BD_ is asking, Unity Schnoppit. Yes. Unity causes to disintegrate.
All parts of Unity.
It's actually a little bit a follow, because one of the things one of there's like number of things, but like people sometimes ask us like, oh, Unity is introducing this is going to resolve this issue. Would you consider just staying with Unity and upgrading to a newer version? Problem for us, there's so many issues with Unity. There's like a bunch of technical ones, but even if the technical ones were resolved, the big issue we have is they're not really trustworthy for us as developers, because they've done a number of weird kind of practices and sort of U-turns. The most like recent one, being the fact that they wanted all developers to pay per install of their game, and that change was retroactive. Meaning, if you there were a number of developers who had published games, and they developed them, assuming certain kind of licensing with Unity. And then Unity goes like, no, now you're gonna owe us this amount of money. And the developers were like, there were some developers who would literally owe more than they actually earned through their game. Like, they would pretty much ruin the businesses, and Unity just introduced that. But what's even worse is, years before that, they made some changes where they were like, trying to retroactively change their licensing agreements. You already, licensed the engine, you released the game, and they wanted to introduce ability to be like, well, even though you agreed, to certain version of our terms of service, we can change that version retroactively. So, even if you're not doing any new development, now you have now you have to conform to this new agreement that wasn't in place, at the time of when you made your thing. And there was a big outrage because of that. And because of that, they were like, okay, we're going to be more transparent. We're going to, we're going to revert that, and we're going to put our policy changes on GitHub so we can, everybody can see when and how they change. And we're going to be, all nice and transparent. And then, they quietly removed that, and then they quietly reintroduced the ability to retroactively change the terms of service, and then they retroactively changed it. Meaning, their word, from my perspective as a developer, their word is essentially meaningless. They're just gonna, right now I feel even though they went back on, the predatory kind of changes for the, for the fees, I'm kind of expecting to do it again, just slower and quieter so people don't notice, because they've already done that in the past. And it's not even the first thing they did. There was another change, I remember, that fortunately didn't affect us, but where they essentially said, if you're running any Unity-based server software, you can only host it on Unity Cloud. You cannot use Azure, you cannot use Cloud, Google Cloud, you have to use our services. And for us, we kind of skirted it because, our headless, it actually has 0 Unity bits in it. But even then, it's kind of, it's not the kind of change that, you want them to pull on you. And that it hurts a lot of trust in the brand. And essentially for us, trust in them is below 0. And that's one of the reasons. Even if it was technically perfect, we probably still be wanting to move away, because we don't know when is the next thing they're gonna come. We've already dealt with some things, because they another things they introduced. They were they had these programs where you have Unity Plus, you have Unity Pro. Unity Plus is much cheaper. Unity Pro has a bunch of things, but we don't need any of those things. But Unity was we're gonna streamline Unity offerings, and we're gonna remove Unity Plus. Everybody has to go on Unity Pro, which is 10 times more expensive. And to me, that feels they're they know their developers are fleeing away from them because of their practice. So they're doing what they can to squeeze as much money out of the people that they still have, because we gotta see some companies will end up doing through this kind of cycle where things get worse, people will flee, and they will clamp down on people who they know they cannot switch super quick. Because if you're a game studio, you say a few years into developing a project, say to Unity, and suddenly something like this happens, you're not able to switch just on a whim. It takes a lot of time and a lot of resources, sometimes resources you might not have, to switch away from the engine. And they know that. So they know they can, like, do this kind of move and force those developers to pay more. Even though, like, the developers aren't getting any benefit from it, but they want to squeeze out our money. And right now, to me, it feels like Unity is going through that stage where the people who originally built the company, who made the software, and who made, like, a really cool, like, engine, and, like, came, like, with really cool things. It changed the industry a lot. But now, the company is being controlled by people who don't have that same kind of relation to the product. It's controlled by people who are more focused on just maximizing profits. And by maximizing profits, they actually make the product worse, which makes people leave. So they end up, like, making decisions that make things even more worse to squeeze as much money as they can, because they don't care long term. They care, like, they're gonna stay with the company for, like, a few years and then move on to another one. So they don't care, what happens after that, as long as the numbers, look good during that period. So to me, it feels like, Unity's kind of going through the process right now, and we just want to, like, leave, even if all the technical issues were not there. But there's still, like, lots of technical issues, and we could talk about this for a while. But it's this kind of behavior alone that, like, is just, like, making us, like, we need something, like, where we know we're not gonna have, like, something like this pulled over us, like, out of the blue, that's gonna put us in, like, a very problematic situation. So, yeah, United does make us snap it, makes us disintegrate.
Yeah. I won't harp on that topic for too long, but man, the API is not good. There's just so many little bugs and gotchas everywhere.
That's the other thing. I don't want to, like, go onto the technical bits of it. Like very much, like, my thing is, like, one thing I want people to understand, even if the technically was perfect, like, the practices of the company alone are enough to make us still want to move, because we don't kind of trust, like, what is going to happen. The next question is from Orange. Actually, this one's a little bit bigger, so I need to... Where do I put it? Is this... I don't know if this is going to be readable. Orange is asking... I can make it a little bit bigger there. Orange is asking, do you have any plans to integrate photon dust with spatial variables? For example, if each particle could obtain properties such as color, size, vector, or air resistance based on position defined in a spatial variable, it would allow for highly sophisticated visual effects. It also seems interesting to find atmospheric pressure using spatial variable and visualize wind flow caused by pressure gradients particles. So, photon dust is not going to use spatial variables. It's going to have its own system that's going to serve similar purpose called effectors. The reason for that is spatial variables, they're designed to, like, interact with the data model. So they're kind of, like, synced with the data model. And they kind of, work in the lockstep with that. With photon dust, it actually runs, on background threads, it runs in parallel, and it's asynchronous, which means while photon dust simulation runs, effectively any of the changes you're making, they do not get, like, updated within the particle system until it finishes its work, because you cannot, with multithreading, you cannot, like, change the system in the middle of simulation, because it's going to break everything. If we wanted to tie spatial variables, with photon dust, it would mean two things. One, we would need to, like, synchronize photon dust with spatial variables with the data model, meaning it would not be able to run as, in the background, in parallel and asynchronously. It would need to be kind of synchronized, which would negate a lot of the benefits. Or we would need to synchronize the spatial variables to photon dust, which means if, like, you have, like, a particle system that's taking long to simulate, suddenly everything else is not getting any new values through spatial variables because it's being held up by the particle system. So we don't want to, like, tie those two systems together. Instead, we're going to introduce an effector system, which is going to design specifically for photon dust, specifically, to be efficient with it. That will pretty much let you do this kind of thing. It's going to let you exert forces on particles. It's going to let you, affect the colors of the particles, and do lots of other things. It can have like tighter integration for how it affects the particles too. So it's like, a little more performant as well, because with spatial variables, there might be like, lots of kind of like individual kind of like samplings that might not be as efficient as something that's, specifically designed to work with photon dust.
It's not possible to sample the spatial variables from multiple threads at the same time.
You can do it for multiple threads as long as they kind of happen in lockstep with the data model.
Okay.
So, and the problem is photon dust doesn't run in lockstep with the data model. It runs asynchronously.
Understandable.
The next question's from Zozakasu. Move it here. Is it? It's okay. There we go. Zozakasu's asking, after the splitting, do you have any plans to further accelerate development of Resonite? Would these plans include open sourcing some features, as mentioned in previous Resonance updates, and implementing Molecule? Oh yeah, so I don't have like super 100% specific plans, because like we kind of usually adjust based on what's needed, but I feel like Molecule is one of those things we really need, especially the more developers we have. And it's also kind of like, reduce a lot of the kind of like manual work with every build. Open sourcing some features, I think that would be kind of good one. Like, I've been kind of pondering about open sourcing maybe the render side of things. No decision has been made yet, but that might be like interesting, like, maybe to get some contributions there. I would like to open source like things sort of gradually, do first modules where it's not going to cause like, too much fragmentation, but it's still going to, provide kind of benefit. So like, doing stuff like the importer-exporter system, there might be like a good one, and sort of like, doing it piece by piece on, on parts that like will help grow, essentially, the parts kind of grow and help like people like fix up like things and expand like, the functionality where it matters the most, while still kind of keeping things kind of cohesive. It is a bit like tricky thing, because like, open sourcing, it won't necessarily mean things being faster unless it's done well. Like right now, like we have like some open source like bits, but we don't have the bandwidth to like, really be dealing with all of the PRs, like pull requests, which is like, way for people to contribute, because like for any contribution we do need to review the changes, make sure, they're okay, make sure they're aligned, with like whatever we're doing. And it takes its own time, and the time needs to be taken away from us developing things. So that can affect, the efficiency of this process. So, and it's one of the reasons we want to do it sort of like more gradually, in a way where we can sort of like gradually build up the process and not cause, sudden chaos. But yeah, like overall, like we do want to like things to kind of accelerate. It's also going to help a lot, because one of the things like we would like to do is like rework a lot of the UIs, and we've been moving there to sort of parallelize it. So like we're like, on the engineering side, we just mostly implement the data feeds and stuff with that, and then the content team or the art team, they are able to like build actual UIs while we focus on other things, and it parallelizes the work and makes it more efficient. Next question is from BD_. Let me duplicate that so I can read it easily. Oop, I think I made it too small. There we go. BD_'s asking, given that the render changes and the custom shaders are a bit further out, is there a chance of having some smaller features, for example, lid or 2-pass transparency, matcap mask, etc., added to existing seat and shader in the interim to improve compatibility with the most frequently used features for avatars built for other platforms? We could potentially. I would suggest like making a GitHub issue about it. It's also a good, like, make the GitHub issue specifically for the small features, because one of the things that sometimes happens is people make GitHub issue and they're like, and they have like a shopping list of like, I want this, 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 and like what ends up happening makes the issue really big, and like we look at it and we're like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that's, we can't really squeeze that in, anywhere like nicely. But if it's like a small thing, we're like, okay, there's like a quick enough change that doesn't mess anything else up, so like we can do that small change. That said, like, I'm not making any promises we're gonna prioritize it right now, but like we can at least look at it depending on what it is. Next question's from Lexivo. What are some small maintenance tasks that you do keep Resonite running smoothly that as regular? I cannot talk. What are some small maintenance tasks that you do to keep Resonite running smoothly that us regular users could also do? I can't actually really think of much. I mean, it's mostly like a lot of like maintenance stuff. Like it's kind of like automated. Like I mean, that's the main thing is like like try to automate as much stuff as possible because then you don't generally have to worry about it. So like for example, like one of the things with our cloud is like I literally will not touch it for like months on end. And then like some issue happens, something happens, it goes down or something, and I have to like look at all the graphs and like stack traces and like timelines of like the request and why is it freaking out and try to like narrow down what's happening. But it happens only like now and then, and most of the times like I literally don't even like I don't touch the cloud. It just keeps running. So it's kind of like it's also like designing things, in a way where a lot of the like it's fault resistant. It's like one of the kind of principles, with the cloud is like it's very if something goes wrong, it's able to kind of work around it, or like it has like retry logic. It has like more graceful failing for some things. There's like bugs things that kind of be fixed and so on, but generally like you want to make things where it's just automated, like where you don't worry about stuff kind of not being kind of smooth. So I don't know if you have like any ideas on any tasks you could be doing.
I'm not sure. All I can think of are like like optimization stuff for like your avatar, I guess. I can't really think of anything that would be related to this in particular, though.
I mean, just one of the reasons I really want to do Molecule, because Molecule is like one of the things where I'm doing like these tasks like over and over and over, and like sometimes like make mistakes with them. And if it's just automated, like like for example, like when I release a new build, I have to go find which issues were they, like make them link, then collect all the people in the thing, like who are like contributing, find their Discord usernames and put a thing, and it takes a fair amount of time to do, and I just want to automate it. I want to be like like in the Git, when I make the commit, I just include a link to the issue, and our system just picks it up, parses the issue, generates a changelog, generates like a list of users, generates who contributed to that on developer side. Like I've had a few cases like where I've forgotten to credit either somebody in the issue or forget to credit somebody on the team. Like for example, I think it was like Syra, like it happened to you once or twice or something.
Yeah.
The Pearl Prime, like where because like when they made like PR, there's like they write the changelog notes, and sometimes I'll just kind of copy it over, and then they don't include like their name, and I forget about it, and and then it doesn't end up like in the changelog when it should say implemented by this person. And this is one of the things is because it's manual, I have to think about it, and if I'm like in a rush and I just copy paste and like oh no, I've forgotten to put a name in, now I made a mistake. If it's automated, that mistake pretty much never happens. Like it's like algorithm, it looks at it, it's like okay, this person made a commit, therefore they're gonna go into this thing, and it just automates it, and now it frees up like mental space. So I would say like for things that are smooth, you just want to automate things as much as you can and free up your mental space. So you don't have to like worry about, you don't have to worry and remember about doing things, because you will forget and you will make mistakes. Next question is from Goldie Raccoony. Is it internet behavior for audio source waveform mesh and audio XY mesh to continue updating mesh vertices even when the component is disabled? Yeah, kinda. There's like one thing with the enable disabled state is like usually it affects if like whatever behavior the component has is coming from that component. But if it's coming from something external to it, like if something kind of pushes data to it or something, then it'll still like do its stuff because like it's not the one who's is not driving, you know, that kind of behavior. So usually like we kind of have like, you know, this kind of approach. It's like, for example, you know, with protoflux, if you have like update node that's generating updates, that's like if you disable that, it's going to stop working. But if you have a node that's just, you know, accepts impulse and does something based on impulse and continues on, if the node is disabled, it's not going to do anything because the node is like not originating the behavior. It's coming externally. It's just going to be anonymous, like being used by something. And it's kind of similar with the audio's waveform where, you know, the audio updates are coming externally to it. So it's just kind of like responding to them. We could maybe like look like if there's like a way to kind of like, you know, skip those updates like for optimization, so we could change how it works. I have to kind of like look at it more. Next question is from Papaltine. Papaltine's asking, what does the current CI/CD setup look like? What are manual tasks that we would like to automate, and what is blocking you from doing so? So mostly like we have like CI/CD for like individual kind of components. Like Sarah has like set up a whole bunch of them, like where we have like, you know, libraries, and like we essentially push a commit, it does, you know, a bunch of stuff, and then like we make a new release. When we make a release like on the GitHub, it's gonna, you know, it pushes it like, you know, to NuGet, so but then we can kind of just update things. What we would like to do is essentially have it like fully automated pretty much end to end. That is, you know, we make a new commit, you know, to actual Resonite, like, you know, to Froox engine, and that essentially triggers a set of like, you know, things where it makes a complete build of Resonite, pushes it into Molecule, and now it's like available for testing, you know, it's available to be installed, like it just automates all of that. And we know on the press buttons, we say like, okay, this release is ready for public release, it pushes it to Steam, it pushes it on maybe to website, maybe pushes it like, you know, whatever else we want. And it's just like, you know, it's completely automated. All we have to do is, you know, push a commit, and it makes a full functional build of Resonite, rather than like the individual kind of building blocks that we still have to manually kind of integrate. So that's kind of like the main thing. One of the things that's kind of blocking like us is just time. Is like one of those things, you know, where it's like it requires a lot of time to be spent on it. But at the time, you know, like in the time we don't produce any new features, we don't produce any optimizations, we're just improving the process. So it kind of makes it a bit, you know, harder to do when we have like lots of features we need to add and lots of optimizations we need to do and lots of bug fixes to do. So it makes it hard to kind of prioritize these kinds of things. But now we have like, you know, people like Sarah on the team, like who can help, like, you know, spread some of that workload and handle a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, I just wish CI/CD was easier.
Yeah.
It's
always like funny because like every time like I see like CI/CD being set up, and it's kind of when I set up one on my own like a while back, or set up a bunch of them, it's literally just like push a thing, oh, it fails to build, make a commit, like, oh, hopefully this will build, push another commit, hopefully this one will build, and it's just kind of, you know, doing things until it works. And you just see like a series of commits where it's just like, hopefully this one works.
There's just like no way to like comprehensively locally test it. And before any of you suggest, yes, I've tried ACT, it's not very good.
It's a bit of a time sink, so that's the main thing. I'm just gonna give it most things. It's like just question of time and prioritization. But it's gonna make things much nicer once it's fully integrated. It's actually one of the things that like is also like kind of blocking us from like, you know, some of the like open sourcing stuff, because one of the things that I feel we need, if we're like going to open source more stuff, is we need more unit tests. So when people make PRs, it kind of catches all of the common mistakes, you know, before we even look at it. It can be like, you know, oh no, the change you made, it breaks, you know, this thing. You know, it breaks like this test. You need to fix that before, like, you know, we even look at it. That way, like, you know, we don't merge the change, and then, like, you know, something breaks, and we have to investigate why it changed. And the CI/CDs, you know, that's actually a component of that, because you can, you know, run the tests as part of it, and some of our repos that will run tests before, whenever you like make, you know, PR or make commits. The next question. So let me just think quick. Next question is from BD underscore. Post molecule, do you envision Resonite moving away from Steam-based client and or headless distribution? I wouldn't say moving away. We're very likely gonna stay on Steam because Steam is like really good for marketing. It's like, you know, it's very convenient, like, because so many people have Steam. You know, just go you tell them go on Steam, install it from there, you know, it's done, like, it's very easy. Whereas, you know, telling them, like, download this app, you know, and this app is going to let you install this thing, there's a little bit more friction. It's not like too much, but like, by not being on Steam, you know, we kind of miss out on a chunk of users where, like, where it's easier for them. So pretty much our goal is to just provide it on as many platforms as possible. Like, you know, with Molecule, we can have our own installer, which also lets you know switch between builds, you know, very easily, have multiple builds in parallel, do stuff like that. It's gonna be easier for headless too, because you could, like, you know, say, like, install things from command line. You don't have to wait for Steam to, you know, push things. We might maybe move headless from Steam, maybe. That one could make sense, like, since it's like more kind of specialized and would like use like software, but we might also just keep it, maybe just to keep things simpler. In fact, I would actually like to, like, you know, once we have Molecule, build more publishing pipelines, you know, put it like, make it automatically push builds on HIO, for example, make them push, like, you know, on other clients, make it push, like, on, say, like, have pipelines for various like Linux, like, repos, so you can, like, you know, you can install the headless or maybe graphical client, you know, from the package system. So I feel like the more is kind of better in this case. Oh, this one's big. Red is asking, I don't know where to put this. I'm gonna put this here. Sorry, I need to scoot a bit. There we go. Red is asking, super duper in-depth one. Here's a stick a few paragraphs. As it's lots of people yap about how expensive dynamic impulse receiver is. From my knowledge, please educate all of us wrong. This is because at basic level sends the pulse entire hierarchy at the point you give it, making it search for all items of the same type. I had idea recently to possibly make much quicker, but it doesn't already exists, and tell me if it wouldn't work well. Basically, there would be a fake data model with only the slots and dynamic impulse receivers, name slots, no transforms, just receivers. The slots, whether they're not enabled, whether there's change with slots, and dynamic receiver unknown. Basically, dynamic receiver only model, so they don't have to go looking down each and every slot each time an impulse happened. Again, if they do something similar to this, feel free to expand in detail. I enjoy learning how this actually works, cool stuff. So, this one's a little bit complicated. So there's like if you do systems like very sort of mirroring the hierarchy, one thing you have to be wary of is, like, you're essentially introducing a constant cost, because this fake data model needs to be constantly synced with the real data model, which means every time things move around, like, you need to be updating, you know, the fake data model. And that's essentially, say like, you know, you're sending a dynamic impulse, you know, so you send it like once per 10 seconds, but you're constantly moving things around in hierarchy. Now the problem is you're now spending lots of cycles updating the fake data model for something that happens once per 10 seconds. So it's you know, it might not, like, depending on the use pattern, it might not end up like being worth it, because, like, you essentially introduce a constant cost of, you know, just updating the fake data model for, like, you know, very sparse queries. There's also a lot of things that doesn't, like, help you with, like, you know, for example, having no transforms. That doesn't help you because the dynamic impulse, it doesn't care about the transforms. Like, it doesn't even read them, it doesn't access them, you know. Same with the components being enabled. With the component, it's like, you know, well, this demo could help a little bit, like, depending, like, you know, if it can update the tree. So, like, you could potentially make a system that, like, helps accelerate it a bit. But, like, whether it's gonna be useful or not, it's gonna depend on the use pattern. And the problem is, it also, like, requires a fair amount of engineering. There actually is a system that's a little bit like that, that's used for, you know, tracking when things move in the hierarchy for the dynamic variables. and it's also used for when like slots move, so like colliders can be updated and doesn't need to traverse everything. So it could potentially make a system, but then there's a question like is that the best approach, because it's additional engineering, it's additional cost when the components move around. It might be just better to have a better kind of messaging system. Like maybe if you once you reach that point, the dynamic impulse is not the best kind of system for what you're doing. Maybe you just need to have a system that registers itself with some kind of event sender or event receiver, and then you're just sending to that list of things, and it might be way more efficient and way more manageable approach overall. So potentially yes, it's you could do something like that, but you're essentially introducing additional kind of constant cost, and in some cases it might be worth it, in some cases it might not. But also there's over other approaches. Next question is also from it's also for Cyro. Do you want to read this one?
Question for Cyro: what window manager do you run, and can I see your rice? Oh man, I don't. I have not riced my distro, so to speak. I've not really visually customized it. I use KDE, and I literally just run with the stock Breeze Dark theme, because I just want a desktop that feels homey. This feels homey. It looks basically almost exactly like the Windows desktop. I mean, I can show you my desktop, I guess. I'll just take a screenshot of it. Nothing super exciting.
Oh.
I don't know how well that shows up on camera. That's literally all my desktop is.
Resonite.
Yeah, it's Resonite.
Your Discord's orange.
Oh, my Discord actually...
it
didn't actually take a picture of my taskbar. Interesting. No, I don't use that Discord. I use a different one.
Your cores are gay.
My cores are gay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really all. Not super exciting. I just use what works.
Next question we have is from Phoenix. Phoenix is asking, will you port the Resonite to work on the Starfish brain implant that Gabe Newell is working on? I mean, I don't know if you port Resonite, it's more like hardware that you integrate support for. I mean, maybe if I get an SDK or something, maybe. All I'm gonna say is, I trust a lot more with this kind of tech than Neuralink. But, we'll see how that goes. Next question's from Ozzy. It's a big one too. Ozzy's asking, I recall a long time ago changing how Froox Engine uploads mesh to Unity was quite a hassle. How are you doing it exactly, and how different is it from how Resonate currently handles mesh uploading? Also, unrelated question, how is the new Doom game? I haven't heard too much about it other than knowing a few friends who have been non-stop playing it, in which I imagine is good. So, for the first part, I don't know about the hustle part. It takes some time to do. I don't know what we call hustle specifically. But essentially what it's doing is Unity has two sort of APIs for uploading mesh data. One of them, you just give it, pre-made sort of arrays of these are the vertex positions, these are the vertex normals, these are tangents, these are UVs, this is the stuff, and then you tell Unity to upload it, and Unity does a bunch of validations, make sure everything is okay. It converts it to whatever format it needs to be on the GPU side, and then pushes it to the GPU. And with that validation and conversion, there's overhead, which kind of slows it down. It's also what makes it hard to work over IPC, because right now it kind of works from our mesh class, which is a lot of kind of calls and things, with it kind of as it kind of converts it and creates lots of these separate buffers and things, and it just makes it so it would be harder to get over an IPC because it's a lot of scattered stuff. And with IPC, because we're going to be using shared memory, we kind of want to just be here's a big chunk of memory. just like bunch of bytes, and this is the mesh. And it's kind of what's happening with like the lower level API, where essentially we specify the GPU memory layout of the data. We, for example, say like the layout for each vertex, there's the position, which is like in this format. It's like, for example, 32-bit floats, and then the normals. The normals are specified as, so for example, normalized bytes, and it's only 2 of them because you can compute a third one. Maybe tangents, similar thing, kind of encoded. Maybe colors are encoded as like, instead of float, they're encoded as half. And it essentially specify how it's like how each vertex is laid out, and then you just give it literally a byte buffer and be like, this is the mesh. Just put it to the GPU and render it. And that's, kind of like what this new method does. It's like, there's a little bit like, there's like multiple kind of buffers, and there's like some things that don't fit into the buffers. But essentially, this is kind of what it's doing. So we essentially generate, that GPU memory layout on our end, and we just give it to Unity, and we tell Unity, don't even bother validating this, just use this as is. So we kind of skip a lot of overhead, because we already do validations on our end. So we kind of don't care, if like Unity is like doing them. It's kind of just slowing things down. It also makes it easier to move it over IPC, because like literally the whole mesh upload is, is in a single like continuous buffer that can be, just put like into the shared memory and can be kind of passed around. It also like lets us, because some of the stuff, like for example blend shapes and individual buffers, because there's there's like, you have the vertex buffer, which is the vertices, then you have index buffer, which is the actual like, primitives, usually triangles, and this is just indices, and then we have like, some extra stuff. We have like bone bindings, and we actually need to do like bone weight separately. And then the blend shapes is also going to separate it out through this API, so it's doing it, each frame, it maybe uploads like a chunk of it, and if the mesh is big, it's gonna take, multiple frames to fully upload to the GPU, but it doesn't cause you the big, chunky, like, lag that you get. And so, like, it's a combination of two things, it's gonna help this way. We could also eventually, one thing I would like to do is like maybe integrate our asset variance system as well. So these, buffers, that buffer can be pre-generated. So instead of even having to generate it locally for static meshes, you just download it and just like yeet it into the GPU, and like that's it, and mesh is loaded. That'd be like a later thing. Oh, I forgot the other question, the Doom game. It's very good. I've played through it like almost twice now, like fully. They actually ramped up the difficulty too, like on especially on Nightmare. I really like it feels very Doomy. It's still like, very like Doom game, but it also plays different from Eternal. Like, I really like watching videos of like Hugo Martin. He's like the game director, and he like talks like really well about how they design stuff. And the analogy he used, like, and like that I feel is kind of apt. For Doom Eternal, you're like, like a Ferrari, like you're like, like a fighter, you're just like kind of zooming around, like sniping the demons, like, quick switching weapons, headshotting everything. It's very kind of like laser precise versus like the Doom Dark Ages. And you're still like, like in Doom Eternal, you're a very unstoppable machine, but you're like more of a kind of glass cannon, like you're destroying everything, but the moment like you kind of stop or you stumble, like you get hurt or you die. With Doom, so you kind of have to kind of constantly keep like moving and zooming around. With Doom Dark Ages, like there's still quite a bit of movement, but you have the shield. And generally, the Slayer, he feels very heavy, like a tank, or like Dio Martin, like he's like what if he's like heavy, like a truck. Like there's one thing I really like that's like super fun is like in the previous 2 games, there's no fall damage. Like you can fall as far as you want, like nothing happens. With Doom Dark Ages, I like to say there is fall damage. When you fall from really far, there's fall damage. It's just not for Doomslayer. It's for all the demons that are near you. Because like if you fall from really high up, all the demons literally just explode. And so it's like you're literally like playing it like it feels like you're like a cannonball. And you have the shields. Like if you have like a like in Doom Eternal, one of the worst things that could happen to you is you end up like in a corner, you end up surrounded by a bunch of demons attacking you, you're pretty much dead. Like you need to make sure so you don't get to that point where you get cornered. With Doom Dark Ages, because you have the shield, like you can actually, like when the demons attack you, you actually parry them, and then like a lot of the weapons, they're designed to kind of work with the parry mechanic. Like for example, Chain Shot, which is sort of like this ball gun. If you parry it correctly, it fully charges it, which like does a huge amount of damage. Or my favorite, the rocket launcher. The rocket launcher, there's splash damage. So if you shoot a demon that's too close, it hurts you, and it can hurt you quite a bit. But if you parry, then for a short time, the splash damage heals you. So you can literally get in the face of a big demon, have him like, and especially the big demons, they will try to attack you, with a parryable attack, like if you're close, so you get like really in their face, they will attack you, you parry, you shoot them in the face, with the rocket launcher, heal up, they'll try to attack you again, parry, shoot them, heal up, like you get like into this kind of, like, I like how like Hugo Martin likes to call it a dance, like you kind of, like the game has like its dance, and you have to learn the dance, and that's how you get like really good at the game. And Doom Eternal, it has like its own form of dance, and Doom Dark Ages, it also has like the dance is different, but it still feels very Doom. It feels like you're kind of tearing everything up, just doing a bit of it is in a different way. And it's one of the things I like is because like with Doom 2016, it's hard, like once you play Eternal, it's kind of harder to go back to it because like Doom Eternal feels like a ramped up 2016, like, and then 2016 feels like much slower. And it's kind of, you don't have the dash, you don't have as much running, the demons are kind of sluggish in comparison, like they're just kind of waddling around. With Doom Eternal and Doom Dark Ages, I feel like they don't take away from each other. They both kind of stand on their own. And they're both like very fun. Like once you kind of like learn, the Doom dance for each one of them, like it becomes like super fun and get it into the flow of the fight. And there's like a lot of like really cool things, like it's a very different kind of design, like the level design, like the levels are very big, like this game, like you kind of like move around kind of like a lot, but you can also kind of zoom around quite a bit. So it's very, like it's very enjoyable. Like I've been kind of playing through it. I've like replayed a bunch of levels multiple times and kind of been playing again, especially since they also like they bump up the difficulty, so like there's some things like you cannot, like they kind of tweak that, so there's some things you cannot get away with. I was watching the live stream with Hugo Martin, he was like, they have like statistics so they can, tell how much people are dying on each difficulty, and he was like, people are not dying enough on Nightmare, you're supposed to be dying more, so they kind of ramps up a few things, and there's like few things like, where you used to get away with it, that you don't anymore. Like, for example, like, there's some attacks, like, where you could, like, shield them, and you'd keep your shield. Now, like, you're gonna lose your shield, and one of the things in Dark Ages, if you lose your shield, that can be a very quickly a death sentence, because then you cannot parry the attacks, and the demons can be very, very aggressive. It's very fun. The only thing that, like, I'm a little bit sad about is, like, the soundtrack, because, like, it doesn't sound bad, but it's not memorable the same way like it was, because there was like, I don't know if I get into it, but like there was, the whole thing that happened with Mick Gordon, but even then, like, they got like Andrew Hochschild and David Levy, and they did soundtrack for the Ancient Gods, like DLCs for Eternal, and they like also did like a really good job. It was like it just like a lot of the tracks that were very like, memorable. I could like remember individual tracks and riffs from them for each of the levels. Versus like, with Doom Dark Ages, like it doesn't sound bad, but like it's just like, to my brain it sounds more like oh, it's generic guitar sounds, generic metal sounds as you're playing through it, so it's like hard to like, it doesn't stick the same way like it does with the previous two games, which is like a little bit of like a letdown for me. I was kind of, well, like I heard like there's like some parts that are like sound pretty good that like I kind of remember a bit, but like not anywhere near to the level like with the previous two games, including the DLCs. But overall, like it's like a very enjoyable game. Like they put a lot of like care into it. They balanced it like like pretty well. Like they made like the core gameplay the core game loop, like, really, really good. Like, once you learn the pairing, it's very, very satisfying to play. And there's a lot of, like, really cool environments. Like, I don't want to give, like, too many spoilers, but there's, like, around, like, in the second half of the game, there's, like, set of levels which are, like, I really enjoyed, like, the visuals of them and, like, the theme and stuff. But yeah, it's a very good game. I'm excited for the DLC. So next question is from Lux. Would it make sense to have asset queue as its own separate process? Also, what priority do you personally see its rework having given as a fragile state which frequently breaks, and assets, of course, vital for Resonance functionality? I don't know. I don't know if the queue... So maybe the asset loader for static assets could be its own process. I don't think it's as important necessarily. But also, like, I don't know what I actually mean, like, with it, like, being fragile state, because I don't think it is. Like, general, like, assets will load.
The asset queue always breaks.
Oh, you mean the session transfer queue? Oh, yeah. No, that's... Yeah, no, that wouldn't make sense to have its own process. That would actually kind of complicate things a lot. That part just needs to be rewritten. I thought, like, you meant, like, the asset loading, because the asset loading kind of sort of maybe makes sense to have its own process. Maybe. We'll see. The session answer, definitely not own process. Like, that doesn't really make sense for that. It just needs to be rewritten. Like, it's very old code that like needs to be rewritten pretty much. I've wanted to rewrite it for a while and I just haven't gotten around to it. But it needs to be made more robust. Once I rewrite it and it's more robust, I'll just be taking tons of pictures in a war and people will be like, you break the asset queue. I'll be like, no, I fixed it. I can take all these pictures and can destroy all your VRAM. Okay, so that's all the questions we got from Discord.
That took a whole hour, pretty much.
Oh my god, yes, yeah, there's a lot of questions. If this kind of keeps up, we might need to like have. There's a lot of questions from Twitch too. If this keeps up, we might need to like introduce like a system for like. We're only gonna answer like spend like this amount of time answering Discord questions, to, like have people vote on them or something. Anyway, let's start going through these ones. So these ones we already went through. Next question, well, the first question from Twitch is from Snur, and he's asking, instead of SOS, would you consider using a graphics engine based on C# for better clarity? So maybe, like, we haven't like made a decision. There's like one that we've been kind of looking at, which is called Stride. It's essentially a game engine that's fully written in C#. It's a kind of neat project. It was formerly named Zenko as well, and then like open sourced it. So that's potential. I think it like last time I checked, like it does use like forward cluster rendering, and it's kind of interesting how it does some things. Like I can actually take in some inspiration for some things I want to do with the data, like one of the data model, but like how I want to redesign some of the engine structures and integrate it like into data model. So maybe there's like no decision that's been made yet. Fuzzy Bipolar Bear is asking, do you Dagadu? I've made a glitch. Do I have to bring it? Do you have to experience the beauty of Dagadu?
Oh no. He's gonna make me watch a video or something, guys. I don't know what he's gonna do.
I'm gonna make everyone watch this.
Oh.
This is the most beautiful moment in the Doctor Who history. Oh my god, it's still going!
Oh my gosh.
It's still going! So... Oh my god, it's loud.
I like how Froox is like, we're only going to spend a small amount of time on questions. He's bringing in a video.
This is like 2 minutes. Well, they've been doing 24-hour live stream. This is the most. Sarah, you're a fellow Doctor Who watcher. How do you not know of Dagadu? How do you not know?
I don't know.
Oh wait, is it gonna play the audio? I don't need the audio. Hold on. I need to bring maybe the static clip. This is the live stream, so maybe that's not working right. Let's see. There we go. It's just 1 minute 42 seconds. It's Dagadu. I've made some. I've put it on the like. I've played it like to Glitch a bunch of times, and then he played it, and now he just goes Dagadu, and some other people, like, you know, you're like that I'm staying, like, they were like, this is gonna be in my head for a while.
Oh boy.
Is Dagadu?
It's not. It's still loading. Okay, I see it now.
Screw the beginning. Dagadu. Alright. Yes, we need Dagadu avatar. Is Dagadu?
I don't. Run while you still can, guys. Run. Please run. Run.
I think that's okay. We can watch the rest. This is on the. They've been live streaming this for like 3 days now.
This is the worst Resonance ever.
It's Dagadu. What I love is like apparently like I watched like the behind the scenes, and like absolutely Davies, he was like, I'm washing my hands of Dagadu. Like that had nothing to do with me. And then the writer of the episode, she was like, I didn't come up with Dagadu. There was nowhere in the script. Apparently, like Murray Gold, who's like the main composer, you know, who makes like these super epic like tracks, like he just made this and sent it to them, and then they were like freaking out about it, and now it's like, you know, 24/7 live stream that's on their channel for the last 3 days. So it's I find it very, very amusing. So yes, to your question, I do Dagadu, and I make everyone suffer Dagadu.
Oh dear.
So next question's from Mintshock. Is there anything special you would have to do to use the new audio features on custom streaming cameras? No, there shouldn't be. If you use the interactive camera, it should be pretty much automatic. Like that component should take care of it. If it doesn't work or there's a bug, like make a get up about it. Oh no. Oh no! I'm never mind. I thought like they meant started the stream. Well, it's still gonna. Now that you have started, do you have an ETA for the splitting? I don't really have an ETA. I would say like probably in a month, maybe. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. Essentially, trying to do it as fast as possible. Next question is from Reedon. When we come to IK rework in the future, does that include full body rework as well, or would this be separate thing itself? I'm surprised the same thing. Like IK is used for full body, so yes. Like those, like I haven't even thought about these two, like, you know, being a separate things. Next one is from Ace on Twitch 17. It's asking follow-up IK questions. Will IK rework give us a more simplified full body calibrator? For example, not having to adjust your hips so your avatar isn't like hunched. I mean, that's pretty much the point of it, yeah. Because like one of the reasons it's kind of hunched is because the IK doesn't work super well, so you kind of have to spend a lot of like messing around to make it look better. But even then, it's kind of difficult. The general goal is for IK to just behave like way better out of the box, so you don't have to spend time, you know, fine tuning it. So it's not even like I wouldn't even say this calibrator itself, because we might preserve the ability to, you know, do fine adjustments if you really want to do them. We want to make the IK work well enough so you don't have to do, you know, the calibrations in like 99% of the cases or something like that. Next question's from the ultra-wide gamer. Where would I put this? It's a big one. Ultra-wide gamer is asking, because of all the large... my controller's batteries are low. Because of all the large and fast features we have been implementing, thank you for this, by the way. I have noticed lately that the stability of Resonite and its features have been getting worse. Is there any plans to slow down on features for a little bit and focus more on bug fixes and stability? I would depends which features you want. Like usually when new features are introduced, it's gonna be a few bugs, but it also kind of depends how things are kind of going lately. Like lately, I've been kind of oversearched a bit, so I feel I've been making more kind of mistakes. But it's also like one of the things, where stuff like molecule is gonna help, because like one of the things we don't really do is like pre-release testing for everything. And one of the reasons is like there's like overhead. So we did it for everything that would like slow down the development to its, to a halt. But with molecule, that might be actually kind of easier to do, where and it kind of comes with the CI/CD stuff, like where make a commit and like it just makes a build, and the build is available. Like it can be like, okay, test this out, test this thing out, test this thing out. So that might make things like that easier. But also, yeah, like usually after big thing is done, there's some time spend on cleaning things up as well and so on. But it depends like what kind of stability you're kind of thinking. Because stability can mean crashes, the process crashes down, or means like is a feature broken or something, so depends. Next question is from, this is also a big one, from Ace on Twitch 17. With the success of the amount of upvotes cloud spawning has on GitHub, thanks you for encouraging people to upvote if they want cloud spawning in the updates channel on Discord. Would you consider encouraging people to upvote on other requested features on Discord, like IK rework, UI rework, protoflex collections, and what will help you guys a lot in the longer molecule? I mean, yeah, we kind of do that. Like anytime like issues kind of come up, we're like, this thing would help fix it. If you really want to still fix this, this is the feature to upvote. So. And we kind of keep bringing that, like when people are there's issues with build releases, not being able to revert builds and stuff like that. We're like, please upload molecule. It's going to help us, and it's going to help you, be able to swap those builds. So in general, yeah, I mean, you can I would like to encourage people to just vote on everything. If something's important to you, put a vote to it. I think one thing is we can be careful is we upload lots of issues, unless the issues have votes, that doesn't make one of the issues kind of stand out. So they can be kind of hard, because if you say this issue is important, but you say for multiple issues, and say there's 4 issues which each one of them has 100 votes, they're kind of on the same level, meaning we can prioritize them in the order, but if one of them has way more votes, then it's kind of trickier. So we might do more things to kind of decide which one ends up being next. But if one has lots of votes, then can be okay, this seems like a really good thing to prioritize right now. Or, in some cases, we kind of steer the development towards it. We see okay, this is something that a lot of people have interest in. We're gonna, try to work towards that. Because sometimes, it takes a bit to to be able to get into a specific issue. Next one is from Ace on Twitch 17. After in-game mesh vertex editing is implemented, do you also plan adding Blender-like modifiers for mesh in the future as well? Yeah, there's an issue for it. It's the mesh DSP for protoflex. So you'll essentially be able to create a sort of flow how the mesh gets processed. So you can have you're going to be editing the base vertices, and then it goes through DSP to produce the final mesh. And the DSP, it can do a bunch of things. It can do for example, apply subsurface subsurface actually I completely forgot the name of it. Subsurface subdivision, I think. I might be messing it up. Essentially smoothing out the mesh, doing a bunch of kind of processing, and kind of even and you could even merge it with other meshes and do stuff, so you can have define a procedural kind of pipeline with vertices as the basis. So that's pretty much meant to kind of those two features are meant to be kind of synergetic with each other. Granny K is asking, how will the IPC stuff be tested in release, piecemeal, or as a whole? Probably as a whole, like most of it has to be working, because if not if most of it's not working, then you pretty much don't have a functional build. Because, say, for example, we have a part of the IPC that uploads assets, but we don't have the part that renders meshes. You have assets uploaded in memory, but you can't see anything because there's no meshes, so like there's nothing to test. So, and it kind of comes in with everything. Pretty much most of the features, they need something there, like, you know, it needs to be working so you can actually have like something usable build that you can test. Kyrie asking, were you surprised how many people voted the corresponding feature request after you added it to patch note? I don't know if I was surprised. I mean, it seems like more than usual because it's not the first time we did it. Like sometimes we kind of like include stuff, but I think it definitely helped. And it definitely helped, like, you know, show that like this is something that a lot of people care about. Maybe a lot of people didn't realize this is not an officially supported feature. This is a hack. You really want the like official feature, you know. You really want, like, you know, the official feature, so like, you know, don't run into the same situation again. Next one is from Ace on Twitch 17. When the inventory UI gets reworked, will we also see rework over legacy inventory? Well, I know that both will be using about same data feeds, but legacy inventory and streaming UI looks outdated compared to UI like inspector. I'm confused.
I mean, they're legacy for a reason.
Like it, yeah, because like the inventory being reworked, that means we replace it. Like we replace the legacy with a new one, meaning the legacy goes away. So like when the inventory gets UI, like when inventory UI gets reworked, the legacy one's gonna be just gone. It won't be there anymore.
Yeah.
Nick was asking, please open source the render. I would love to push some new material property blocks out. I badly need new ones like texture scale. Yes, there's already GitHub issues. They just haven't been prioritized. So this is one of the... So this is actually one of the reasons, you know, why we kind of a little bit worried about open sourcing some things, because open sourcing doesn't mean we're going to accept every change and every PR. Because we still have to, like, you know, make sure it's kind of aligned with our development. And one of the things I'm worried about is, like, you know, when we open source things, some people will be like, oh, let's just add all these features I wanted. And they make a big PR. And we'll be like, we can't merge this because, you know, maybe there's technical issues, maybe like, you know, we don't want to commit to, like, you know, the maintenance, like, you know, burden, because like once it's merged, we are responsible for maintaining the code. We have to make sure, you know, that code that you contributed keeps working, because code, like with changes, code will break. And once we do switch the render, we also have to port all those changes. So maybe we'll be like, we don't want these extensive changes to stuff. Because, you know, like we'll have to rework all of those when we switch render. So we might, like, you know, deny those PRs, and that can create a fair amount of, you know, of anger, like make people like mad, you know, that like they spend work on like implementing some things, and, you know, then we just reject them. So in a way, like, in it being kind of closed source, it makes like we don't have to deal with it kind of thing. And when we do open source it, we need to kind of be prepared for that. And one of the things would be, you know, for example, having a guideline being like, these are the, you know, the code quality standards, you know, that we require. These are like, you know, these are the things we accept. These are things we don't accept. So people know upfront, you know, like what are we going to accept and what are we not going to accept. And then they don't spend, you know, a lot of time kind of working on things that, you know, would end up being rejected. But also, you know, setting all of that up, that takes time. And that's part of the reason, like, we want to do it like gradually too, and do it for, especially for parts of code where it's much easier for people to run their own fork. Like, for example, for importer or exporter, because with importer and exporter, you don't care about, you know, long-term compatibility with stuff. Like, you're kind of you're taking that burden on, and it also has more well-defined API. So, like, you know, it shouldn't break as much. But you're essentially responsible for maintaining that, because you can, you know, you can have your own fork of an importer, or have like completely custom community importer, and you just, you know, you load it in as a plugin, and, you know, we don't have to even worry about it. Whereas when it's for render, you know, that's something that needs to be shared with everyone, and that like puts a lot more burden on the maintenance. You know, you cannot just run your own render, because then you would be able to see stuff that other people don't see, and it kind of breaks the experience. So probably not gonna open source that as soon as as the other things, or maybe we'll have some strict rules on what we accept, what we don't. Well, we definitely will once that happens, but this is kind of one of the things is I don't want the open source automatically mean you just can add all the features you wanted and we'll automatically accept them.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you need to be prepared to take no for the answer and have that not be a super emotional thing on the PR, because it's all just very objective, business.
It's also on our end, there needs to be a process we're prepared to handle, because right now I feel like we're not.
Yeah.
Next question is from Nuki-kun. I noticed spatial variables are sampled based on their own slot, and doing them from the user viewpoint requires some factor. What uses were they designed for beyond sampling from user view? I don't quite understand.
There shouldn't be. There's a protoflux node you can use to sample from the viewpoint. You just plug the viewpoint protoflux node, or the user view position, into the sample spatial variable node, and there you go. Easy peasy.
You can pretty much sample them from arbitrary position in the world. It's all in global coordinate space. You just give it a float tree and you get whatever values at that point. Next question is Ace on Twitch. While legacy inventory has option for it, will we ever see option to make your dash shown to other users in future? For example, you want to show users features like customizing the dash, so you demonstrate with your dash. That might be a bit tricky. One of the reasons we don't really allow that right now is because it opens security holes. We might end up maybe making some systems that can replicate just the visuals, but even that's kind of tricky. So with the inventory, one of the things with the redesign is with the data feeds, and for example, with the worlds, is data feed is aware where it's running, and based on that, it sort of filters the data. So for example, if you have a world data feed that's showing active sessions, if it's in world, it's not gonna show any sessions that the user would have not seen otherwise. So for example, any contacts only sessions or contacts plus sessions, they're not going to be visible. The data feed is not just going to provide them, because it knows it's in public, so it only shows public worlds. That way, it cannot be abused, to, for example, spy on somebody else's worlds. The inventory data feed is going to work the same. It'll be able to work with public folders, so if the folders already would be visible to the user, data is going to provide it, but it's not going to show you anything that is private if it's in public. So that one's a little bit more kind of scoped, so we can kind of design it in a way where it can be more safely shared within the world, because we kind of control what data flows into it. With your dash is very complex. There's a lot of stuff in it. So that becomes a little bit harder to just make the clean separation for it. It would probably more be just let's show just the visuals, but even the visuals could potentially leak some sensitive data. So the best thing would be probably showing some kind of mock-up or some stuff, or videos, or simplified version of it. It's a tricky issue. Next question is from Grand UK. Grand UK is asking Schnoppet. You're too late. We already had a Schnoppet.
Too late.
What time we have? It's still a good time. Next question's from Nuki-kun. Also, we'll be marking feature requests for sampler that works from user viewpoint. I mean, we should be able to just sample it already from wherever we want.
Yeah, like I said, there's a viewpoint protoflux node. You can just plug it in the sample spatial variable protoflux node.
Next question. What up with this? Next question from Ace on Twitch 17. After WebAssembly gets implemented, would we ever see support for something like Unity plugins or any other render plugins in the future. For example, I have a Vroid avatar, and in Unity, I use this plugin called HANA tool, and it can do things like add face tracking blend shape to my Vroid avatar. If I ever redo my Vroid avatar and edit Resonite when official VM support is added, it would be cool to use HANA tool in Resonite also. I mean, when we have WebAssembly, that like people can develop, plugins and stuff. And the only limitation is, what kind of APIs we provide to interact with things, but that tends to be very low level with Resonite, with the data model. So people could implement their own plugins, but very likely, you wouldn't be able to just, take plugin developed for something like Unity and just bring it into Resonite. That's not going to work because it's version to work with Unity stuff, not with Resonite stuff. If the developers of the HANA tool, I'm not really familiar with it, so I don't know any specifics of it, but if the developers of that tool made a Resonite port, then we'll be able to use it. The other approach would be, with using Unity SDK, once we introduce that, because that way, you can have you can build your stuff in Unity and then just import it here, or transfer it here. That way you could use, plugins and tools used for Unity in your workflow and then bring the stuff over. And if you need to make modifications, use the tool in Unity again and bring the stuff over. So that would be the other approach if you just want to use the tool that's made for Unity. That's actually one of the reasons, why it's beneficial for us to have SDK for Unity, even though, we're very focused on in-game editing, is because, it makes it usable with existing tools and, stuff that's made for third-party tools, and you can kind of take advantage of them in your workflow if you want to. Next question is from ASON-Twitch17 as well. Where did I put it? Last question from my batch. When the rigid body physics is implemented, could Doppler be used on it? For example, you hammer through a speaker playing audio, and the Doppler effect makes it audio sound funny. If I'm gone, when you answer my questions, I want to say thank you for answering my questions, and hope you and Sarah have a great rest of your stream. Thank you. Doppler doesn't really care what's moving the object, so if you have rigid body, it's gonna work the same way if you were moving that object, with a panel component or proto flags, or just grabbing and holding and moving it around. The Doppler doesn't care. It just looks, has the object moved? Has it moved? Yes, I'm gonna apply Doppler. So
yeah,
there's not really anything special it needs to do with rigid body. Oh, there's one more. Isn't Twitch? Forgot one more. Sorry. While we will be getting cloud spawning soon, will we? Well, we haven't said soon. So, I mean, we're probably gonna look at it post-listening soonish, but I don't want to make any promises right now. Will we see ability to switch to avatar to protocols in the future, sort of like cloud avatar switch? I mean, you can already kind of do that. You can there's an equip avatar node. I don't know exactly what you mean though. If you mean switching one from the inventory. Maybe API, so you can kind of automate stuff in your user space and have it switch whatever avatar you want, have whatever logic you want. But I don't know if that's what you mean or no.
I mean, most likely you would just spawn the thing and then equip the avatar with the node.
Yeah. Next question is from Hazara. Oop, didn't need to do that. Come on. I'm just gonna put it, it's gonna be crooked. Could we see more setting options in the client that lets us take advantage of all the things that asset variant system? I feel like asset variant does a lot, but not everything is exposed to users currently to optimize the game to their specifications preferences. I mean, we want to add more in the future. Question is, what specific options you're thinking about, because most of stuff should be sort of exposed-ish right now with the textures. We do want to add stuff for example, simplifying meshes, so you can be okay, there's gonna be a limit on geometry complexity, but we don't, asset variant system doesn't support it yet. Similar thing, for example, with audio, when say you have a slow internet, you want audio files to be more compressed for smaller download, maybe that. with the textures, like most of options, like you should already be like exposed. Like you can, it's pretty much like resolution stuff. So I don't know which options you're thinking, but like there's definitely gonna be more in the future. Next question's from Nuki-kun. Nuki-kun is asking, oh no. Do you have a world you use it as new builds to see what broke? It occurs to me that would be a good way to automate, probably have something more sophisticated. It usually depends what's being developed. Like I try to like pick worlds where I'm sure like some of the features are gonna be used. So usually it's a combination. I pick worlds where I know it uses certain things that are being changed that could break. So it's going to depend on the specific feature. I also tend to test with like popular worlds. So there's like worlds that like people use a lot. Like I use those. It depends on the specific thing. Automating stuff is like a little bit more difficult because like that's gonna depend a lot like on specific kind of feature. Next question is from BD underscore. Oh, I keep doing this.
Do you need a little help?
Yeah. It's fine. There we go.
Okay.
BD underscore is asking, with the future neural rendering engine, is there any possibility of moving to double world coordinates to avoid floating point rendering issues with large world? Probably not. We're very unlikely gonna do like doubles because you cannot do it just with the rendering. You need to propagate it through entire pipeline, which means the transform, which means the hierarchy, which means the physics engine. Like a lot of the stuff, like it needs to like all use doubles. And problem is there's a pretty significant performance cost with that. Because doubles like they literally use double the amount of memory, which means you get double the CPU cache misses. They also with modern CPUs and especially modern GPUs, they are way slower. Like, especially with like, if with consumer GPUs, doubles are slow. But even with the specialized GPUs, that like are designed for like scientific workloads and have like better double performance. Oftentimes the double performance is like less than half of what you get with floats. So like you it's something like you use in very specialized scenarios because like there's quite a big penalty for it. So it's not something like we would like switch, especially because there's like other approaches you can use. For example, one of the things is like kind of partitioning the world and sort of like keeping the actual floating point coordinates relatively small and then having separate coordinate system, that is like the more kind of global position. And it would be something, for example, with the domain system where you chunk the world into smaller chunks, and then within each chunk your relative position is small, but the chunks are sort of positioned relative to each other, so you can like travel huge distances without the values actually being huge. So very unlikely like to switch to doubles for this. Like that it would have pretty bad performance implications. Okay. Why is Protoplex unpacking recursive when packing only targets single slot? So you can kind of just unpack like there's like two reasons. Like one is we can unpack multiple groups at once. So like you have like things kind of organized. You can just be like we have like things organized into modules. You can just take the root and go unpack. The other part is so you don't have to pick the specific slot. Like if you have like your slot and maybe like you have it like suborganized, you can just pick that and go unpack and it's gonna work. As long as like otherwise you'd have to like be very specific with which slot you select, and that's not gonna be as good like for user like intuition, because you'd essentially say you would have like a little bit of organization, you go unpack, nothing happens, and that's confusing to a user, and the viewer have to be like, no, you have to like have to go like one slot lower, you have to unpack like specifically this way, like it doesn't make a good UX.
Yeah, I think to infer a little bit of context from that previous one, they were probably thinking about like accidentally unpacking the entire world root.
Yeah. How it's gonna happen? Like, you're gonna be careful. It's also like one of the things, there's solutions for that. Like, it can be like where the system goes. Like, it's like you're about to unpack, a huge amount of nodes. Do you really want to do that? Anyway, the next question's from Marty SH. Which update holds the world record of being realized the shortest amount of time since the update before it? I don't really know. Like, we usually, when there's an update, sometimes there's like, issues that pop up. So like there's like a hot fix, like, shortly after it. So this happened a few times. Usually, whenever I release an update, I'll just kind of keep monitoring things for a bit, see if there's like anything on fire, and if there is, like, I try to patch it up like quick. So there's been like a few times like where that has to be done. We usually try to avoid it as much as we can, but it's kind of, a balance of how thorough the testing is for each, of the features. And it's like even some things, like we've had cases where I had to like do, like when we've done like literally weeks or even sometimes months of pre-release testing, the build gets updated, and there's a big issue that pops up that nobody found during the pre-release testing, so they have to like quickly patch it as well. So stuff like that happens. Epic Easton's asking what brain chip? There was like a news recently that Gabe Newell, he has a company called like, I think it was like Starfish something. He has a company that's like looking into like neural interfaces. Epic Easton's asking, will there be a need to do that. Epic Easton is asking, will there be a pre-release to the mesh upload pipeline to make sure that everything is working? Not sure yet, depends, I'll do like a bunch of testing, see like how things work. There might not be, because like it might just be like fine, like, and there's not like too much variability to it, but there might be, it depends, it's not finished yet, so I don't know yet. Next question is from Bitcrack IGN, is asking, how big is the IPC buffer for IPC? Is it dynamically sized? Yeah, it's pretty much dynamically sized. It's going to depend, how much is happening. If you're in a small world, small amount of stuff happening, it's going to be small, and as you load stuff, it's going to become bigger. Nightlife VRC is asking, plans for inverse kinematic fixes. So something like the full body IK and such. We don't actually plan on any sort of small incremental fixes. We plan to replace it completely with a redesigned system that's gonna, fix a whole bunch of things all at once. And that's we generally call it the IK rework. Oh, this is the Doom part. Jaredek is asking, for me, the new music is missing the complex rhythms and weird but working amazing a sound design of Mick Gordon, just too generic. Yeah, that's kind of why I would describe it. Like, the music, it doesn't sound bad, but it's just too generic. Like, it doesn't stick to the brain the same way like the previous one did. Next question's from Seidan Dub, or Sajden? I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. Hi, out of curiosity, I know English is the work language of the core team. Which other languages do you and other Resonite team members speak? Well, I speak Czech, that's my native language. I can also understand Slovak, which most Czech people can do. I don't actually... Oh, so I know Bob, who's our finance officer. He actually speaks a bit of Japanese, which has like been very useful because he's been interacting a lot with the Japanese community. And he also visited like in Japan. I think he knows a few other languages too a bit as well, but the Japanese I think is the most prominent one. I don't know for other team members much. It doesn't come up like super much.
I mean, the only other one I technically speak a little bit is like Tokipona, which is like not even like a real language, it's like a conlang. So it's like super duper simple, 125 words. Yeah, I recommend looking it up. It's super fun. It's
really cool. I really like it. Like, it makes me really think about languages and communication, like how we kind of communicate concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually know. Like, it doesn't really come up much. Yeah, like most of us, like, yeah, I can't think of anything else other than the Bob scenario, because that one comes up like because of the business things with the Japanese stuff, and I think on the team I'm the only like non-native English speaker myself right now. I think. I don't know. If to ask around. Nikki put this refresh special articles review. Was asking, we'll have to look at it afterwards. Nikki Cohen, what does Daga do?
You know what it is now.
It's the bird.
You know what this is now.
It's Dagadu.
No more.
As a Bible bear. Oh, for sure, Resonite, Dagadu, or Avatar when? I don't know if I could do that. Like, that's technically, not it's BBC stuff. I mean, I figure somebody's gonna do it. That's sooner or later. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of Dagadu stuff. Next question's from Rasmus 0211. What are the prospects of future physics components besides character controller? Pretty much like a full like standard-ish set of like rigid body physics. So you have like rigid bodies. You can have a bunch of constraints. You can have like some stuff like apply forces and stuff like that. Next question's from Lucas07. Sorry, I just got here, but did something happen to the stream audio? I think obviously it's recording. Oh no, is it? I've even asked people.
Well, I mean, another person says it sounds fine to them.
Okay. Maybe they joined when I was switching it. No, I think I switched before then. That's weird. Are you hearing my voice twice? You should be like hearing my voice spatialized, because it should be being rendered from the viewpoint of the camera.
I kind of wish we had like a timestamp for the questions so we knew how long ago they were asked.
Oh, that'd be a cool feature, yeah. Jack, if you're watching.
Yeah, Jack, chop. Thank you.
We
love you, Jack.
Yeah, that sounds okay here. Anyway, like, so we kind of address this, but like with open sourcing parts of Resonite, would you consider having strict contribution guidelines to make PRs more manageable? We pretty much will have to, and even then, like, I'm still kind of scared of it. Like, what's I'm worried about the drama that's gonna happen, like when it happens, and if something doesn't get merged. So that's one of the things, like, I feel like we need to kind of be prepared for and have like good kind of processes in place.
A lot of people are not used to the PR workflow.
Yeah. It's also like just being, like, because we have to kind of be strict what we accept. So I don't people think, like open source means like now everything kind of like, gets accepted, everything kind of goes. We have to kind of keep like, the long-term kind of like long-term maintainability of the project. We have to make sure, it doesn't, introduce any problems either now or down the line. And that can be kind of a tricky process. Next question's from Grand UK. Grand UK is asking, when Molecule is out to help with builds and plugins, will there be better documentation for making plugins, specifically protoflags, monos, and protoflags bindings? Not really with Molecule. That's like a separate thing. Maybe like, with WebAssembly, but we'll see. Like, it's not really like Molecule related. Also, just obvious, it's gonna be data feeds all the way down. It's pretty much all gonna be data feeds. Next question from Rednico is like just kind of elaborating on that one. Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on the specific kind of thing you want, and like I haven't like had time like to look at this thing and evaluate it, so like I don't know. Even like extending on things we have, sometimes we don't expose certain things. Sometimes extending means like sometimes we don't extend things because we know this is gonna get replaced, and if we extend it, then we need to rework a bunch more stuff. So it depends. It can be complex. Checking time. We've got 25 minutes left. Next question is from Ozzy's asking, late question, but is there a way to communicate some user space settings directly to workspace, say dead zone settings or turning type without Cloud Wars? Some of them we can actually mark to be available in workspace, I think. I forget. I think we have a mechanism for that. I just cannot remember adding one. It might be, I would probably make a GitHub like issue, see if you, we can kind of look into it. I have to check the source code, but I think there was a mechanism for some of them to be accessible in workspace. Next question from ShadowX. Related question about being able to make a garage visible to others. There are Minecraft mods that directly stream a video of users' inventory and other UIs to everyone on server. Maybe it could work this way. Of course, a prerequisite is the ability to dynamically create video streams, which would also be needed for desktop streaming. Yeah, once we have desktop streaming, you can stream, once we're able to stream video, that makes this stuff like that easy, because, we can just render the user's view and, check it into the world and, you show them live. So that is definitely an approach. And one that would open lots of kind of options for the desktop sharing and stuff like that. So next question from Ultrawide Gamer. I just read into the Molecule GitHub issue for the first time, and Molecule sounds really useful and should be implemented sooner rather than later. Do you have any major features that you think should be implemented sooner than later as to help Resonite be best platform it can be? Yeah, Molecule definitely, it would help us a lot. It's just kind of, the problem is there's too much stuff right now, performance, that's being one of the big ones. I do think all of the UI stuff is also important, because it's going to help with the smooth stuff. I do think having Unity SDK would help sooner than later as well, because that's going to help onboarding people and make it much easier for people to kind of come over from different platforms and help people start building workflows. And also it's one of those things where the Unity SDK, we actually want it to be open so people can extend it and improve the conversions and just kind of build upon it. So that would be I think good one. Another one that I think should be done sooner than later is the workshop, because right now there's so much stuff the people share through shared folders, and the sooner we have workshop and people can start uploading stuff there, the sooner essentially starts getting populated, and the more content we get, and that content is accessible and searchable for everyone, for every new user. So it's something we want to do as soon as possible, because with public folders, it's a bit of a lossy process, because if the folder stops getting around, that thing is kind of lost. You cannot really find it easily. With workshop, it just kind of stays there until the user removes it. So I think that one would be also beneficial to have sooner. But there's generally just a lot of stuff, and a lot of things will also just kind of help Resonite just in different ways. Next question is from VT Arxos. Is there a universe comprised of multitudes of Yellow Dog Man? I don't know. Probably, depending on how how the multiverse is. If there's every possible reality, maybe there's one where that is possible. I don't know. We have no way to test it. Next questions from Redneko. Was Froox ref ID so I can clone him and increase dev speed with 5 Frooxes? Ref IDs changed. They're not. They're dynamic. Change. I'm gonna respawn and it's gonna be different. Next questions from Nukikun. I just looked it up in a search. Someone is putting together a rigged Nakadu mesh, so it's only a matter of time. Beautiful. Redneko, size 400. Does this work? No, it doesn't.
No.
Grandi K. Typelinks? It's the opposite of Schnopit. Oh, I had one. I forget about. I don't remember it now. I had one, but I forgot.
crap. I don't have anything that makes me feel good this week, guys. Help.
What? Let's get that bad. Yeah, I had one, but I don't remember what it was. VTRX was asking ferret? I don't know ferret. Dusty Sprinkles is asking Froox, just mention molecule in update notes and then everyone will upvote it. Maybe. I mean, that's the question. The problem is, like, at that point, like, we're also, like, kind of skewing things because we're like, oh no, Nuki-kun. I don't think Dagadu mesh is a rig. I think it's 3D print, so Monica Donald and rig. Yes, it's gonna happen. Next question's from Grandi K. Would Unity SDK include ways to work with Flux and Resonite components? So Flux would probably need like UI. So we need a bunch of node-based UI and stuff like to work with it. The plan for the SDK is so you can technically have like any Resonite component. So you could do Flux that way, but that will be really painful to do. But we probably wouldn't produce make our own UI for it in the Unity. But it might be if we make it open, somebody might make it. But also even then it's kind of tricky because how do you test it in Unity, because you're not running Resonite in Unity. So it's kind of just providing the structure. So it kind of becomes how detailed do you want it to be. So technically yes, but I don't know if it'll be practical. Next question would be from Platypus744. You mentioned that future episode might vary in style. What were your other ideas for doing Resonance? We're kind of thinking about doing stuff like playing some other games and so on, kind of chatting during that. But it's kind of just become lots of questions and just kind of haven't bothered doing different things yet. Maybe we'll see in the future, but
stream.
Oh no. Angel Boy is asking, is the Froox made of banana flavored ice cream? No, it's mango.
Mustard.
No mustard. Next question from Red Neko. Talk about something important with the workshop. There's a few worlds that are unavailable in Headlesses, mine called Iridia, Hidden Theater by Master, and a bunch of other people, Navy SEAL. But will the workshop have a system for worlds like this that are 24 up, but only headless? If it's more of the worlds thing, where you're oh wait, was I not mirroring? Wait, what? How long was my car not? Oh, did I misclick it? How long was it not doing that?
I think it's just for a couple minutes.
Okay. They might have broken the audio too.
Oh no.
What was the last time? Did it just happen? Oh, so it was just a few seconds. I think I just literally clicked it now. Okay. Okay, it should be good now. I forget where I was. I'm gonna buy something to consider, but I feel like this is more like a worlds thing, where it's these are public worlds you can visit. So there might not be as much workshop thing, because workshop is more stuff to spawn and worlds to open. We're actually kind of running through the questions. We have 15 minutes left, so there's still time for a few. The next question's from VT Arxos. Do ferrets have to queue at least before they take away your socks and other objects? I don't know what I mean. Why ferrets?
What?
In confusion. Next question's from Grandi K. On a scale of 1 to fish, what is your favorite color of the alphabet? It's a blurple. Yeah, Nuki-kun, I'd really like to be able to just drop in triple textures on a material. And might we ever see that sort of feature? I don't think for any material, because it doesn't quite work well with everything. I feel like once you have shader support, you can just do triplanar for whatever you want. and just implementing specific versions of it. But probably not super much before then.
Those fancier materials do have a slight rendering cost, just as an FYI. They're doing more stuff.
Yeah, triplanar is more expensive than normal one. It's not like something that's gonna kill you, but it is more expensive. Like, so like if you don't need to use triplanar, you don't want to use triplanar. Next question's from Epic Easton. So the audio is relative to camera for us, but for you it's fine. Yes. Yeah, here like side on my left, and you hear him properly, from view. This is actually a new feature of audio because we can render the audio from multiple viewpoints. So like, there's like one viewpoint that's being rendered for me, that's, going to my headset, and there's another viewpoint that's being rendered from the camera's perspective, that's going to a different audio device that OBS is capturing. And it's actually also rendering my own voice, so you're hearing my voice, fully spatialized. Like, if I go like this and go blah blah blah, and I'm behind you, you should be able to hear this, correctly, because it's being rendered for audio, even if I'm the one streaming. So I don't even have like OBS capturing my microphone. It's just, it's a new audio feature. I wanted to add this one for so long. The Redneck opinions on the gas passer from TF2. I don't know. Is it like I don't know what that one is. Is that like a pyro thing?
I don't know. I don't play TF2.
I played a bunch, but I don't remember gas passer. I used the back burner with pyro a lot, but Angel Boy's asking, what is blurple? It's a type of blonk. Next question from ShadowX. Do you see your current project, the mesh upload, increasing performance already, or is it purely prerequisite to the actual splitting? Yeah, I think it's actually going to help because, one, there's less overhead, like, with Unity doing validations and so on, because we sort of pre-generate all the stuff, and we just, give it to Unity. The other part is essentially spreads out big mesh uploads over multiple frames. So we have like, heavy mesh with lots of blend shapes and stuff, instead of it, if the upload happening in a one go at once, where it just kind of freezes you for a bit, it's going to be spread out, and it's not going to lag you as much. So I think that alone will help, like, performance a bit, especially when people loading in. With avatars loading in, with kind of stuff. But it is definitely a prerequisite. Like, even if it wasn't gonna help, like, we would still need to do it, because it makes it like, so like the entire mesh data that's loaded, by the main process can just be put as a byte buffer into shared memory, and then just Unity installed, okay, just shove this, data into the GPU and treat it as a mesh.
I don't mean to skip the question queue, but would there be some kind of progress indicator to show when a mesh is uploading? Or could
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, the progress indicator is mostly for, like, the download, because usually the download is the one, like, it's gonna take, like, longer. Like, even for bigger meshes, it shouldn't take, like, it should take maybe, like, a frame, like, a second to upload. So, like, it's not really worth doing super heavy reporting on that one. Okay, Kun, do you remember your snippet? I don't remember. I had snippet, I don't remember what it was. Well, it was a snippet, it was also the opposite of snippet. I had like opposite of snippet, but I don't know what it is. I need to write them down. Granny K, where is your supply of soap so we can stop you from eating it? I make my own.
Delicious.
Yes. Next question's from the Redneck. By the way, you don't get enough thanks. Froox, big hug. This platform is amazing. I could have never dreamed of making something like Iridia, but it's so easy to make stuff. Yay, thank you. Grand UK, and I'm behind you, Froox, to 2025. Should we be scared? There's no reason to be worried about spatialized audio. But remember, there's a poisoner behind you. And Angel Boy's asking, but what is Blanc? It's type of Jnufa. That's actually all the questions we have right now.
No
kind of went
more
through them. We still got like 10 minutes left, so you can ask more questions if you want. Or you can end 10 minutes
small
early.
questions.
Small questions,
what
yes.
is your philosophy on the entire universe and everything in it? Those we're probably not going to answer.
Or very quickly. If you want very short answers to very like complex questions, you know, that's the time. It depends. If there's just like one question is a big one. Ken, you're British. You know it's portrait too. You know it's gotta be quick answer. Actually, wait, was Douglas Adams British? I think it was British.
I don't know. I have no clue. You're a nationality. There you go. Some type of nationality.
No, Adams Douglas. Like he was British, I think.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm uncultured.
I'm blanking on that. I mean, in the movie, like, Arthur was played by Martin Freeman, who is British. And he's like I think so. Platypus 744, favorite show you're watching right now? I've been watching the latest season of Love, Death Robots. I was kind of like rewatching Pantheon with somebody. I don't have I don't have like a big show right now. Like you're kind of mostly doing Minecraft and stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
Nukikon, Nukikon is asking, what do you want to talk about? I'm not really much of in it thinking right now, so I'm like, I don't want to think what to talk about. It's just one question. You want to talk about anything?
Probably nothing that would fit in here.
Oh. It's okay, we got some questions. Sometimes I get like in that mood like where it's like I'm like not I actually kind of get this with I get this with development too sometimes, because like sometimes like, you know, I have like things I need to do that require problem solving and that require me to come up with solutions for those, and I need to like, you know, think up things, and that requires, you know, certain kind of like mindset. And sometimes like I'm like I cannot really think of things now. I work like right now my head is more mechanical. I'm like this is a specific problem, I narrow that problem down, I fix it. It doesn't require super creative thinking to solve these kinds of problems. And sometimes, you know, that's like why you get like, you know, builds where it's just kind of fixing up a bunch of things, because I'm like my brain is to try to like, you know, think of creative solutions to the big problems right now. So like I'm just gonna do the small stuff for a bit. It's kind of like how I'm right now. I'm like, I don't. My brain just doesn't think about things. Like if I have something in front of me, I can interact with that and I can work through that. But like I cannot think of things out of nothing right now. And there's like, you know, when working on new features, like I have to essentially come up with a design, you know, from nothing. I have to like make one. And sometimes your head is not in that kind of space. Anyway, next question's from Angelbox. Oh, I thought I thought I was doing a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. Angel Boy, oh my Froox, please enlighten us. I thought it was gonna be like a vlog on poetry or something. Please enlighten us and give us a long-winded scientific breakdown of the molecular composition of Schnupa for the remaining 10 minutes. We don't have remaining 10 minutes, therefore you don't get it. Shadow X is asking, what's the necessary thing you're least looking forward to working on? I have to think about it. Yeah, the CICD is like one of those. It's like one of those things where it's just like it needs to be done, but I'm like,
That's why Froox makes me do all of it.
Yeah, so like I'm like, sir, I have like another thing for you. Usually it's like usually it's like sort of like maintenance stuff like that. It's like, stuff like, oh, like this project is not compiling because like the definition here is like, like not compatible with this definition here, or it's like resolving some library dependencies. Like there's sometimes you spend hours just being like, oh, this version of the library causes this thing here that makes it explode because it's this specific version combined with this thing, and like you have to spend hours figuring that out, and it's like, and you need to do it because things are blowing up, but like I hate working on stuff like that, like dependency hell kind of stuff and stuff like that. It's also like stuff like that I know is gonna be replaced. Like some of the things I had to work on before the split ending, I know for sure they won't be a problem after the split ending happens once we kind of switch. Like one of them was like, for example, with the quantities, like because right now people wanted like be able to use quantities with like math and so on, so they can use special variables. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna add it. And it just ended up like being a mess. One of the reasons is like, there's like in modern .NET 9, all of the base types like numbers, they have interfaces like iNumber, so you can like do generic additions and mathematical operations and so on. And that's like what I want us to switch to. But the version we're using with Mono, it doesn't have that. So we have to have this class called Coder that sort of tries to do that, but like you kind of have to do it in an ugly way. And with the quantities, because I don't want to do it for everyone individually, I did it in a more generic way, but it like ended up like being very cursed and horrible, and like having a bunch of issues. And I know that like once this .NET 9 switch happens, I wouldn't have to do it, but I was kind of like, okay, I have to deal with this now. So there's stuff like that. Journey K, without spoilers, for people who didn't see, what was your reaction to the most recent Doctor Who episode? It was kind of, it's interesting. I don't know what I can say without like bringing spoilers. I'm just gonna say, like, remember, that's not how tables work. I'm gonna skip these. Ages Wolf. Froox, have you played Voices of the Void? I haven't. Run my CT. What is your sleep schedule these days? It's kind of normal-ish right now, sort of. Epic Easton's asking, what work do you think you're going to do on the web browser? It's already separate facets, but it's also not powered by data feeds. Pretty much rework it with data feeds. It's sort of like precursor to data feeds, and then data feeds are like the full sort of realization of that concept. So we just want to move it to that. Froox, did you know that you are at the end of the stream? Pretty much. Like we got like 2 minutes left, so we're just kind of zooming through these questions. Grandmaster Pisteets, what? is asking, what graphics API version are used for splitting? Vulkan, OpenGL, what language will renderer be written in? So the splitting doesn't change the renderer. The splitting just splits the renderer, which is right now Unity, from Froox engine. So it runs in process. It's gonna keep using DirectX 11. Once the renderer gets replaced, it'll very likely use Vulkan. But it's like a later down thing. Also, technical question I was scratching my head over. What controls where the grip poses go when you equip a tool? The closest thing and pose that you guess. I don't think we have time to answer this one. Generally, before like it's sort of like auto-calculated based on the hand position, but I can't get into the details on it. And Candy Case asking, what time is it? It's time to end the stream. Yes. Yeah. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. Hope like you enjoyed the stream. I hope like the audio, like did the audio, like secondary audio, work fine? Like, do you have like any issues with it? It was kind of like I'll have to like see like on the recording because I kind of like really hear it myself, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, for supporting Resonite, for being here, for making stuff on Resonite, for being part of the community, for supporting us, whether it's on Patreon or Stripe. If you do support us on Patreon, consider switching to Stripe. We will literally get 10% more of your money that way, which we can then put into development than with Patreon. So switching even on the same tier helps us a lot. And we'll see you maybe next week. We'll see you because it might be next week, might be the week after. So we'll see kind of how it goes. But we'll see you soon enough. So thank you very much for watching. And I'm gonna check actually if there's a channel to rate. Actually, I might not be logged into the Resonite account. This might be an issue. Or maybe. Oh wait, I can do it from the OBS. Let's see. I just need to find. Is anybody streaming? It's like a good, thing. If you're a streamer, this is a good time to stream. Why am I not logged in here? Twitch TV preview destination. Oh, what? Oh, that was weird. Come on. Resonite up. Let's see if anybody's. Might be just Creator Jam. Let's see. We might send you over to Medra. I have too many windows right now. There we go. But it doesn't want to load. Twitch is having issue loading. My batteries are low. Yeah, it might be just Creator Jam. I think I'm gonna send all of you to Creator Jam because it's the only one I can see in the tab. And it doesn't want to load the full list, so let's do... Oh, controller died. Right on time.
Quickly.
Quick! Who dies? Alright, Creator Jam. Make sure I don't misspell it. There we go. Come on. Okay, say hello to everyone, and thank you again for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Reading now.